the afternoon. They are Team Rainbow, representing the University of Cambridge. Team Rainbow.
Ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon, and thank you for giving us this opportunity to present to you today. So first, we'd like to introduce ourselves. My name is Han Rong. I am a graduating economist at the University of Cambridge. This is Sin Ling.
Good afternoon, everyone. I am Sin Ling, and I'm a natural science student in the University of Cambridge.
Gao Wei.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Kao Wei, a graduating law student from the University of Cambridge.
And Rayon.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Rayan. I'm a second-year chemical engineering student at the University of Cambridge.
Without any further ado, we'd like to present to you our video.
I think I would like to just explain the reason for teaming Rainbow. There are really two reasons to this. Firstly, Rainbow represents diversity from the colors. And as you can see, our courses are very diverse. And I hope you appreciate that. And secondly, I think it's because there is this proverb that we know, it's called a pot of gold at the end of the rainbow. And we really believe that today, with CIMA, CIMA is that rainbow, that bridge, that will give us and bring us to the pot of gold. It could be a new location to explore, some new opportunities in the future, and just having friends. So I think with that, we hope you really enjoy our presentation, and we'll begin shortly. Thank you.
So I'm going to start the presentation. We'll just take you through the issues that you've asked us to analyze today, and then finally we'll bring you through our recommendations for the long-term direction of YJ. So let's start with issue number 1, which is the license application. We received 3 license offers to test drill at 3 sites, EEE, FFF, and GGG. And the question is whether or not we have the financial and managerial capabilities to test drill all 3 sites. Number 2, the drill T signature fraud, which is a signature fraud and a routine safety check. And the question is, what should we do next? Should we come clean to the government, or should we conceal the fraud? Third, we have the liquid gold pharma offer, a $10 million upfront option payment, but unlimited delay penalty past 31st of March 2016. Again, should we accept or reject the offer? And finally, the Greenpeace protests, which is an industry-wide protest on the lack of interest in energy sustainability in the oil and gas industry. So these are in ascending order of importance, and I'll start off by talking a little bit about the license application. We have a great track record of test drilling, bringing into production oil fields as demonstrated by our previous successes, AAA, BBB, and CCC. And now before us we have 3 potentially lucrative opportunities, as I mentioned earlier. So the question really is whether or not we're capable of successfully test drilling in these 3 oil fields. Our answer to that question based on our analysis is yes, which is why we recommend accepting all 3 license offers. So we'd like to break this down into 2 stages. First, I'll talk to you about the financial side of things in a bit more detail, and then we'll move on to the other factors, chief of which is our managerial capabilities. Let's go to the financials. So the money, how much is it going to cost? Well, our estimates predict that the total cash requirement is going to be $63 million for all 3 test sites, which appears to be a pretty big sum of money. At the same time, we estimate that we should have a cash balance of $70.1 million as at 31st March 2015, which is the expected start date for the drilling. So that means we have a $7 million buffer and more than enough money to cover the drilling cost. But there are 2 caveats here. The first of which is that the $70.1 million predicted cash balance is based on assumptions on commodity prices and everything going smoothly. No operational accidents, no legal or compliance costs, nothing of the sort. That's 1. And 2, the $7 million buffer in a capital-intensive industry just isn't enough to cover the day-to-day operational cash requirements, which is why our recommendation is to obtain extra liquidity as a buffer. There are 2 ways to do this, and we recommend a combination of both. First of all, equity financing, and second, debt financing. Let's go to equity financing first. On the slide before you, you'll see 2 different variants of a rights issue. A 1-in-4 rights issue and a 1-in-3 rights issue. Now, investor sentiment says that a 1-in-4 rights issue is pretty safe, and that raises us $74.4 million at a 15% discount. Now, the decision on whether we should choose the 1-in-4 or the 1-in-3 rights issue is really dependent on the financial needs as well as the risk appetite of YJ. So naturally, the 1-in-3 rights issue is a bit riskier because investors might not be happy, and we really need to consider investor sentiment and their satisfaction with the board in the long term, which is why it raises more money at a larger discount value, but really it's a question as to whether or not we want to pick either one of them. The analysis we've done provides you with the results of both, and really we think it's up to the board to decide which one. Our recommendation is to go for the safer issue. It should provide more than enough liquidity. Let's move on to debt financing. So right now, under our current financing arrangements, we borrowed $140 million. Industry guidance for banks suggests that banks should be cautious about lending more than 3 times operating revenue of an operating profit of an E&P company, which translates into about $171 million for YJ. So the difference between the 2 figures is $31 million, as you see in the slide before you. We believe that YJ represents a strong credit profile for 3 reasons. It's got 3 oil fields going strong, it's got 3 attractive prospects in the pipeline, and it's got very low gearing ratios, all of which we believe point towards us being in a good position to renegotiate our financing arrangements with our creditors to obtain better terms, for instance, a higher debt ceiling or lower interest rates. Right? So we've talked about financial capacity, and we think that YJ is in a pretty good position to be able to finance 3 test drill sites. Let's now talk about other factors. The most important of this is managerial capabilities, which is really just a fancy word for talent risk. Do we have the right people in place in the right numbers for us to scale very rapidly to test drill all 3 sites in addition to the 3 sites we already have in production? There's this fancy term again that's called the Penrose effect, which really talks about teething problems when you're scaling up a company very fast. But we believe that YJ should be able to minimize the effects of this Penrose effect because the employees' work is mainly in supervisory roles rather than technical roles. And we believe that training people to administer routine tasks is much quicker than the opposite. A lot of our stuff is outsourced, which allows us to scale quite rapidly. On the other hand, we believe that it's important, of course, to invest in hiring the right people, in training them in the right way, and empowering them through good workplace practices, safety practices, good workplace benefits, as well as a good salary to compensate them for their time and effort, which we also think will incentivize them to work harder and reduce shirking. And then you've got the 3 other factors, the health, safety, environmental factors, really about taking the appropriate safety and preventative measures to make sure there are no operational accidents, test drilling, our ability to compete, and taking tight control of our outsources to ensure that they're on schedule and provide the right safety requirements. And finally, we think ahead to the production stage and whether we require additional financing to bring the 3 oil fields, if reserves are found, into production, or if we should seek for a farm-out offer. Right. Let's recap. So far I've talked to you about the fact that YJ has more than enough financial capability as well as managerial capability, which is why we recommend accepting all 3 license offers, because we believe that this is the only way for YJ to grow and it represents the future of YJ. I'll now pass it on to Cindy to talk to you about the drill T signature fraud.
Thank you. Now, drill IT forged a signature in one of the control log records in the routine safety check. Now, although no accidents occurred during this period, but it's a serious breach of conduct, and therefore, YJ should take effective measures to prevent future recurrences. Now, we propose 3 different solutions to this. The first being, YJ should request for a safety review by a qualified engineer. This is to ensure that AAA field is indeed safe for its employees. Secondly, YJ should inform the government of the fraud. Now, there is an issue here because there may be a confidentiality agreement breach between YJ and Drill IT. However, under the Companies Act, YJ has the right to disclose information on fraud, and therefore YJ should act with integrity to inform the government. And last but not least, YJ should consider the trustworthiness of Drill IT as a company. Now, business relationships depend a lot on trust, and if YJ cannot fully trust Drill IT, it should consider terminating the contract and finding a new contractor for AAA field. Now, our proposals are based on 4 main ethical issues. YJ has a duty of care towards its employees, therefore it's vital that it performs another safety check. Now, the last 3 ethical issues are addressing pretty much the same dilemma. That is, should YJ maintain the relationship with Drill IT, or should YJ act with integrity? Now, we all know that YJ is fully aware of the forgery, and so any attempt to conceal would be labeled as a fraud and misrepresentation, which is a criminal liability. Therefore, YJ should prioritize its act of conducting businesses with integrity, and in other words, inform the government. Right now, I'll pass it on to Kawei, which will talk more about Liquid Gold's pharma offer.
Thank you. The next issue that YJ should address is a Liquid Gold pharma offer for the GGG side. Right now, Liquid Gold has offered a payment, an option payment of $10 million, which gives it the right, but not the obligation to produce oil in the GGG field. So, right now, this is a good news. But if we think carefully, YJ should renegotiate the term of the contract with Liquid Gold by leveraging its strong bargaining position as a licensee. So, let's take a look at this slide. There are pros and cons for the current offer for this pharma offer for Liquid Gold. If you can see from the left-hand side of the slide, there's a potential 500% of ROI increment. Second, there's a $10 million of upfront option payment, which provides liquidity, as well as to reduce the YJ's write-off cost of $18 million. And thirdly, there's a fixed sales price of $9.9 million per million barrels, which insulates YJ from a fall in the market oil price. Well, now we have looked through the pros, but let's look at the cons instead. There's a 10% discount on the current sales price of the oil reserves, but more importantly, there's an unlimited delay penalty of $1 million per month. Note that YJ outsources all its drilling operation. So what does it mean? It means that there are many unforeseen circumstances that may cause delay. So if you add this together, this is a totally unacceptable risk. So at the bottom line, we believe that YJ should renegotiate the term with Liquid Gold. Right now, let me walk you through the proposed alteration of the Liquid Gold farm-out contract. Firstly, we should increase the option payment from $10 million to $14 million, paid in tranches of $4 million, $4 million, and $6 million. This is to reduce the risk borne by YJ. Secondly, we should limit the liability for delay up to $15 maximum. Or, speaking another way, it is $1 million up to a maximum of 15 months. So, in exchange for this concession, and in negotiation, we should always have a give and take. That's why we increase the discount from 10% to 12.5%, thus lowering the price to $9.625 million. So, as a recap, there are 3 points to remember. First thing, to increase the option payment. Second, to limit the liability for delay. And thirdly, to increase the discount from 10% to 12.5%. Right now, I would like Xin Ling to walk you through issues on Greenpeace protests.
So the final issue facing YJ is the Greenpeace protest against the oil and gas industry's lack of interest in energy sustainability. Now we believe that this is a low priority issue for YJ, simply because the attack was industry-wide. However, this is also an opportunity for YJ to emerge as an industry leader in both internal and external renewable energy sustainability measures. So let's talk more about the internal. YJ would benefit from making investments in equipment which would help it increase the workplace energy efficiency. This includes, for example, using motion sensors and energy-saving light bulbs. Now there's another initiative that can be done. It could power its whole office building using renewable energy. This includes solar energy using solar panel fittings. There was a case study which showed that a single company could save up to £25,000 per year on utilities alone. Now, however, this does not really address the heart of the issue. For YJ to truly become a sustainable company, it should consider diversifying into the renewable sector. We will talk more about this in the later sections of our presentation. So the main takeaway from this is that the Greenpeace protest, while inconvenient, is actually an opportunity for YJ to reinvent itself. YJ can save money from being a greener, cleaner company, and it can also position itself to remain relevant in the competitive, energy-hungry world. Right now, I would pass it on to Rui-An, which will talk you through YJ's long-term decisions.
Thank you, Sim. Now that we have talked about the 4 main issues, let us look into the long term. And for that, we have the SWOT analysis. We already know, according to the case study, that YJ is strong in its geotechnical surveying expertise. Not only that, it has tight control over its operations as well as outsourcers. Last but not least, it has best-in-class 3D surveying and IT systems. But what I really want to draw your attention to today are the opportunities that will allow YJ to grow sustainably and successfully in the long term. YJ can choose to differentiate itself from other similar E&P companies, or it can choose to diversify into other sectors. By diversifying, it can protect itself and insulate from fluctuating oil prices as well as local effects such as government instability, which we observed in the AAA field. However, YJ is hindered from exploiting its opportunities due to its own weaknesses, such as the low financial capacity to actually undertake capital-intensive projects in large, huge oil field productions. Not only that, it is unable to cost control because it has a practice of outsourcing a lot of its projects in both production and test drilling stage. This brings me very nicely to our medium-term recommendation, which is to specialize as a geotechnical surveying firm and offer its services to major national oil and gas companies. This builds upon our strengths, which we have said previously: geotechnical surveying expertise, best-in-class surveying and IT systems, as well as the proven track record, being able to bring up to production 3 out of 4 oil fields. This will provide our future collaborators and partnership the inspiration and the confidence to join us and allow us to provide them with such value-added services and allow us ourselves to gain an increased portfolio of oil fields. As far as threats from other competitors go, we believe that very few companies have a similar suite of core core competency as YJ has. And what we're really selling today is YJ's expertise. And with these expertise, we'll be able to insulate ourselves from government instability as well as oil prices. But industry estimates suggests that there are only 40 years left of proven oil reserves. That means if we were to only focus on identifying new reserves, sooner or later, YJ will run out of business. So let us take a step back and think about where does this new growth lies for YJ. And as Sin alluded previously, the growth lies in renewables, such as wind, solar, and geothermal. In particular, we believe that the solar industry holds attractive prospects for YJ, mainly because of broad consumer demand. As you can see previously, the hype over Elon Musk's Tesla Energy as well as Powerwall product. Not only that, recent estimates have shown that government investment has totaled up to a total of 150 billion US dollars in 2014 alone. YJ is in a very good position to take advantage of these opportunities because of its compatibility with its core competency. YJ should be able to apply its experience in geotechnical surveying skills, integrate its IT systems to the solar industry, as well as utilize its operational management and tight control of outsources to do this. Now, I really just want to leave you with one idea, the idea of repeatability. YJ, as we have seen so far, has built a core set of systems, processes, as well as practices to allow it to be so successful in the oil industry. YJ should be able to identify, adapt, and repeat what it's so good at for any other industry, especially the solar industry. And with that, YJ will definitely be able to take advantage of the coming renewables revolution. Han Rong will now be showing you a summary of what we have been so far.
Ladies and gentlemen, we talked to you about 4 issues. The first of which was the license application, which we believe we have the financial and managerial capability to test drill all 3 sites. Therefore, we recommend accepting all of them. Second, for the drill IT signature fraud issue, we believe we should maintain our ethical and integrity, our ethical standards and our integrity, and behave in a transparent fashion, coming clean to the government rather than concealing the incident for a short-term gain. Third, the liquid gold farm offer. We believe it's a great start, but it's not quite there yet, and there's too much risk in it for us, which is why we recommend renegotiating the agreement to limit our liability for any possible delays, which might or might not be in our control. And finally, the Greenpeace protest, we believe, is actually an opportunity for us to reinvent ourselves as an industry leader, not just in workplace energy sustainability, but also as an opportunity for us to pivot towards our long-term direction of investing and becoming a renewables energy company, which brings me very nicely to our long-term plans. So in the medium term, we don't want to shift too radically. We believe we should specialize in geotechnical surveying, and Rayon talked to you about the idea of repeatability. We're really good at what we're doing right now, and we need to specialize in what we're good at in order to succeed. But in the longer term, the reality is that oil is going to run out at some point. And when oil runs out, our business runs out, which is why we need to make the investment now. And we need to take advantage of our core competencies to make sure that we're very well positioned when the time comes and everyone switches to renewables. Thank you.
Thank you, and for the final time, 10 minutes of questions from the judges, please.
Regarding the LG contract, you talk about the financial implications of getting the money up, the reduction in the price of the oil, etc. What about the demand to attend the board meetings? Did you consider that, and were there any options that you considered?
Thank you.
Yeah, we have actually considered that issue, but we find that for them to come into our board meeting is actually okay, because it is not for every single board meeting, it's just a meeting regarding to that particular issue. And we find that it is good because we can always keep them informed while not having an obligation to keep on telling, hey, we are doing this, hey, we are doing that, you see. So it's actually a good thing for us. So we find that this is not really a liability for us, and yeah. So we find it's good.
Okay, so they wouldn't be attending the full board meeting, just the part that's relevant to the issue that you discussed?
Yeah, exactly.
Thank you for that clarification.
Just sticking with LG, and a question in two parts. The first one was, in terms of your counter offer, is that the end game or is that your starting point for negotiation? And the second part is you talked about you're giving them a greater discount. Tell me again why you need to actually give them a greater discount if the terms to start with were unfair.
All right, I'll deal with the second part of the question first. Then, so we think that again in a negotiation, as you mentioned, it's sort of a back and forth, and it's quite difficult to give them a take it or leave it offer if we actually want to enter into a formal offer with them. Asking them to limit our liability while at the same time keeping some skin in the game, because as you saw earlier on our slide, can I flick back? Oh, I can't. The maximum delay penalty that we talked about was 15 million, whereas the upfront option payment was 14 million. So to some extent, that still gives us some skin in the game. So we do still have something to lose if we delay the test drilling, whether or not it's for reasons within or outside our control. So we think from that perspective, it's a good thing that we have skin in the game, because that shows them that we're serious about this. But at the same time, it's still asking them for quite a lot to limit our liability, as well as give us more money up front, which is why we say that we should give them a bigger discount on the current sales price of the oil to incentivize them to accept the offer. The first part of the question was regarding whether it's a starting point or the end game, right?
Answer the question. Okay, so basically what happens here is that it can be either way depending on how fast they respond to our initial negotiation. So if they take a long time to negotiate, I think it's a very, very risky business partner, as you know, they might take a long time and our business might take forever to come to an agreement. And all of these oil fields should potentially be attended to as quickly as possible. So I think it would depend on how fast they respond to our initial negotiation and what they respond to us, what kind of terms that they come back with. If they keep coming back with terms that, you know, cite them more than cite us, we will understand that they are not really interested in having a business with us. And so we will try to find other contractors or try to find other opportunities for farm out in other more potentially better bargains that we can get.
So to really recap that with a bit of numbers, we did say 500% potential ROI, that's based on 10 million proven reserves, assuming that. So what happens is if you were to have this as an end game, you get 511%, which is a good deal. If not, and using this, it's a 506%. So having from 506 to 511%, we are quite happy with all the ranges. Whether or not we call it an end game, it really has to depend on how liable they are to negotiation. And if we can push further, we will upsell.
Guys, you talked a bit about the issue we've had with Drill IT, our subcontractor. I just wanted to be really clear. So you said we should consider termination of that contract.
Yes.
As our advisors, could you give us some clearer advice in terms of what we should do?
I'll take it. So again, this is because of limited information. We say that termination could potentially be a solution. The reason is because, firstly, an argument from Drill IT is that there is huge insecurities due to the location. A lot of protests is happening. You cannot find a better alternative to the very responsible Drill IT. But our consideration to this, given the amount of information, is if an engineer is lost, it would be better if you have informed us straight away rather than doing a forge. And because of this fraud, there could potentially be a trend in what's happening. And we do not know if this is the first engineer they have lost, or even a cleaner that has not cleaned the right food on the oil rig. And all these represents health and safety concern. So the ultimate aim is, if we believe from what we have seen that YJ's core priority is health and safety and the duty of care to its employees, then the consideration of termination is potentially a good way forward, because all we are thinking of is the safety of our own employees. And having this vital safety check forged, that is a major concern.
Yeah, and I can sum up in two kind of situations. One is we base on a legal argument, which is to give notice to them for termination. On the second side, in the business sense, we also need to find an alternative to the outsourcer in order to give them the notice. So these two considerations will always come together. First, we need to find an alternate as outsourcer. So it's like for you to be able to outsource the other company before you give them away. So this is sort of like a long-term plan. So if we manage to find an alternative, we will try to kick him out and we will give a notice. This is how we will approach to this solution. Yeah.
And just following on from that, what do you think about our strategy that actually we outsource quite a core part of our business?
I think to some extent it allows us to be quite nimble. We're a relatively young company in a very capital-intensive industry. What we're good at, as we've talked about earlier, are our infrastructure, our IT systems, our 3D surveying software, and our geotechnical expertise in identifying these oil reserves. I think without stretching too far into the longer term, in the medium term at least, it's pretty difficult to gain that kind of capital to actually test drill or bring into production these oil fields on our own without significant additional funding. We've also read that YJ is very good at keeping tight control of outsources, so we don't think it's necessarily a bad thing that we continue outsourcing as long as we get reasonable rates on the outsourcing contracts, one, and outsources are reliable and maintain the safety of our own employees. We think it keeps us nimble, and that's what we're good at, so we should continue repeating what we're good at.
Just to link you on, I think you do realize then the value of a middle-term geotechnical surveying services firm. Well, we're not saying that we don't want outsourcers. Outsourcers is a current source of income. But if we can provide something truly ours, our expertise, our brains, and this we don't have to outsource. We have the people, we have the skills, we have the system. So going towards providing such services, and then at the same time, if we get a good outsourcer who can do it for us, we'll acquire it and buy land. So that's what we're trying to do. A management consultant that manages assets at the same time. It's a good thing, yeah.
Can I ask on the geotechnical, you made a big deal about that.
Yeah.
Then you've also said we should head towards solar.
Yeah.
I don't understand the connection. How do you bring geotechnical skills to pointing upwards to the sun?
So there are a few things that we considered here. That's why we put wind, geothermal as well as solar. In our report, we specifically mentioned wind and geothermal as something potential. Firstly, geotechnical means that you are able to survey large sources of land. You're able to get data on it, depending on what you want. So currently, we are trying to get petrophysics data on how much oil is under the ground. Now we're moving towards solar. What we're trying to do is understand which locations, depending on the solar information we get, has the highest yield in terms of the solar sunlight. And things like this, we can really use our current 3D mapping systems, depending on how we use it as well. It's going to go very technical if you describe a lot further, but what we're trying to say is these systems are adaptable. They're adaptable to a new system, and solar really needs you to locate a source of land. You can't just plant this in, for example, Aberdeen, and say that that's the highest large solar location. I do not know about the place, but if you have the right tools, I don't know it's up there, but if you have the right tools, and you point it instead downwards on checking the amount of oil underneath, and point it upwards and check how much sunlight do I receive every day in the right location and direction, I believe it's actually adaptable. Yeah.
Can I just check that if there are questions? My thanks to the judges for their questions, and indeed my thanks to Team Rainbow.